So let's start by sort of diving into this idea of traditional publishing. Traditional publishing is probably what you've thought of. You've heard of, Simon & Schuster and Random House. That's what we should typically think of as traditional publishing. Now, when you think of traditional publishing houses, the traditional way they work is they say, I like your book, or I like your manuscript or your idea, we will take that, make that into a book, and help many, many people read it. And then we'll pay you something for it. Right? That's kind of how it works in that sort of way. That's the basic gist of it. So this idea of traditional publishing houses is that they take a risk on an author in exchange for a pretty penny back and from them. So they wind up taking about 90 to 95% of every dollar that you sell a book for. So that's kind of how the economics of it traditionally work. Now, the way that it, again, sort of historically came to be is that we all had books, or an author has a book, and they want to get it in a bookstore. And that, again, for the longest time, think of this as basically pre-internet days for the most part, or sort of before books really sort of went digital so much so. So you wanted to get your book in a bookstore because that's where people bought books. Like that's where 100% of books used to be bought in bookstores for the most part, right? So the way to do that was a publisher. Publishers were the gatekeeper into bookstores. They were the ones that had relationships. And in order for a book sort of seller, distributor to get that book, they had to go through a publisher to bring into the house. So that was the way that it was traditionally done. Now what that did is it created, again, a very clear gatekeeper, sort of who would limit you, whoops, what happened there? Who would limit you from being able to publish. So this created a really nice natural monopoly that publishers had for book authors. So you had to have a publisher to get into the bookstores to have distribution. Now, the way that the sort of traditional publishing world has worked, and again, I share all this with you so you have information to understand where it is work something like this.